Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today is another Martial Monday.
Oh
And we are
yeah.
going to talk about, yes, we are going to talk about the fighter subclass archetype
Thing.
thing. Yes, Cavalier.
Yeah, so this is supposed to be the mounted combat option, and it's like it's technically the mounted combat option, but you don't really need to do the mounted combat thing to get a decent chunk of utility out of this. So like, I don't know. I think it's pretty nifty. I like
I don't know
Cavalier
if you
a good bit.
need it at all to take advantage of most of what it offers.
Yeah.
There's the mounted thing that they've got in the beginning, but I mean, I'm not totally impressed with that. But we'll get
Yeah,
into it.
sure. So this is from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. It gives you bonus proficiencies at third level whenever you get it. So you get one skill of your choice from animal handling, history, insight, performance, persuasion, or you learn a language. The language is almost useless. So learn the skill. The skills are great. Skills are always good. We love skills in this household, and languages are like they're basically ribbons. They're flavors that you stick onto characters in the vast majority of games. Language is normally a pretty big barrier. When it is a pretty big barrier, a first level spell that's a ritual takes care of that problem. So like maybe don't worry about it. And one extra language isn't changing much in most tables. So yeah, that's just.
Are you liking animal handling for this?
Oh, I
To go with the
actually.
mounted combat?
So animal handling doesn't play a surprisingly large role in most in what is like the rules is written mounted combat, which I should pull up just to have on hand so I can consult and not lie to the internet. From my understanding, you don't actually need to do a lot of animal handling if you already have a tamed mount. To tame and train, like to train a mount, I would assume requires animal handling checks. I don't think there's great rules around like training a mount for mounted combat. That being said, if that's something you want to do, animal handling is a great way to do it, right? This is a way to take a Cavalier and like get a. If you want to take a Cavalier and ride around on a giant lizard, that's probably animal handling will probably help you get that fantasy that you're looking for. So that could be a direction to explore beyond the rules and mechanics of the game that are well supported. Most of the time, you're riding around like a warhorse or something, and it's going to be trained. You're not going to need many animal handling checks to maintain control over it and all that kind of stuff. So it's not a huge deal, but it is good on the characters that want to do it, I would assume. And there's a bunch of caveats there based off your table and how many beasts you're running into, and if it's even an option. A lot of time, tables don't include a lot of animals for animal handling to matter. I tend to run tables that do have a lot of animals because they're fun to interact with. It makes animal handling a better skill. So, your mileage may vary. Moving
Okay.
forward, we got
Yeah.
Born to the Saddle. This is like the only other defining thing that says be a mounted combat. Mounted combatant, that is. So starting at their level, you have an advantage on saving throws made to avoid falling off your mount. If you fall off your mount and descend no more than 10 feet, you land on your feet, are incapacitated. Neat. If you're not incapacitated, sorry. And then finally, while mounting or dismounting a creature, you only spend 5 instead of half your speed. And when I say that it doesn't matter, I really truly mean that doesn't matter. Because if you're mounting or dismounting in combat, you're not using the rest of your movement anyway. So if it's half or all of it, you would need to be like within that 10-foot distance for this to have any meaningful text. And 99.9% of the time, that distance between that you would need to get to your mount isn't happening. It doesn't matter. So yeah, Born to the Saddle, more or
And,
less, is pretty pointless. The staying on your mount is somewhat useful. That's like getting knocked off your mount
and
can be
that's not something that ever happens to me. If I'm ever on a horse, I don't think I've ever had anyone try to knock me off.
it. I think it will matter more at the games that are leaning a lot heavier into, like, I would call it a Thorian fantasy, where it's
Hmm.
the Knights of the Round Table, the jousting, the horses are a big
Yeah.
element of it, right? If you're playing in a setting that's more dedicated to doing traditional mounted warfare, which if you're doing that in 5th edition, I would highly recommend taking like any other system, because 5th is not built for mounted combat even a little bit. So like, that's a thing to start with. But if you are playing in that setting, this maybe is meaningful text, right? This maybe is you're not going to get dismounted as easily. Your horse isn't going to freak out whenever you're not on it anymore. You're going to maintain good control over things. That's going to be fine. It's not amazing. It's not like a compelling reason to take this archetype, but what is a compelling reason to take this archetype is Unwavering Mark. Unwavering Mark is the last third level feature that they get. It lets you, when you hit a creature with a melee attack, you can mark it until the end of your next turn. It ends early if you're die or incapacitated, or someone else marks that creature. So if there's 2 Cavaliers running around marking stuff, they knock each other's marks off. So, don't do that. While within 5 feet of you, a creature marked by you has disadvantage on attack rolls against things that aren't you, which works cute in mounted combat because it makes them harder to have a harder time hitting your lower AC, lower hit point mount typically. So the idea is you run in with your mark, you mark enemies that you're going to be fighting while you're mounted. They can't really hit your mount that easily, and they kind of have to focus on you, which is pretty good. In addition, If a creature marked by you deals damage to anyone other than you, you get to make a special melee weapon attack against the marked creature as a bonus action on your next turn. You have advantage on the attack roll, and if it hits, it deals an extra damage equal to half your fighter level. So it'll be like a bonus 2 or 3 damage. Basically, it punishes things that aren't attacking you in a very tauntish kind of way. Regardless of the number of creatures you mark, you can make a special attack a number of times equal to your strength modifier minimum of once. So this doesn't want to be a strength build as opposed to a dex build. That's kind of notable. And you gain all in one every finish a long rest, which is not as many as I'd like, but 3, 4, 5 extra attacks are pretty fine. Out the gate with nothing else, I think you don't even have to have a mount, and like this feature as a frontline martial tanking fighter. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm not super impressed. I don't feel like it's going to come up enough. Like, for this to have any effect, you need to be in somebody's face, but they choose to attack somebody else. And I think 9 times out of 10, if you're stabbing somebody, they're going to want to do something about that.
A lot of the time, yeah. So I think this plays more of an organic taunt than something like Compelled Duel does. This is the kind of thing where you're defending the cleric's concentration, you're defending the frontline wizard's concentration, the blade singer or whatever. You've got haste on you, and you want to keep whoever is hasting you from dropping that concentration. This mark makes it a lot harder for enemies to reasonably get attacks on that thing, or if they do get attacks on whenever you've marked, they're going to get hit really, really hard. Disadvantage on, let's say you're
really, really hard. They're getting +2 damage.
+2 damage plus an extra attack, right? That extra attack is meaningful, right? It's an extra bonus action attack that can be made with a greatsword. And an extra greatsword attack is no laughing matter. That's an extra 2d6 plus a decent chunk of damage. Now, is it happening constantly? No, but it is happening a decent amount of the time, especially if you've got another frontline barbarian or paladin. If you're in a group that's got 2 or more melee characters, this is a pretty easy tag team effect that will be fairly effective, right? It says you're going to attack me or you're going to have a bad time. That isn't the end of the world. That's like a perfectly reasonable option to always have access to. The fact that the marks happen as many times as you like, and the extra attacks of the things that are limited does make it so you always have this taunt pervasive passive ability. Now, would I prefer it to be martial maneuvers? Absolutely. Would I prefer to have a pool of resources to use that give me a lot stronger abilities? Absolutely. This kind of feels like a fighting style. But as a passive effect that you can just constantly have access to, if your goal is to play a fighter that wants to do more of the tank thing, they want to get into combat and say, you're not attacking the monk, you're not attacking the rogue, you're attacking me. This is an option that delivers on that fantasy in a very simple way. And there's something to be said for that kind of simplicity. It's why people tend to say champion fighter is good for new players. I don't really agree. I would say this is better for new players because it gives them options. It gives them things they can say, I'm going to use my mark on this, and see that come to fruition. They'll see moments where they get to make extra attacks for it. It's a consistent new thing to do that doesn't really ask a lot of taxing questions. I think that's pretty good.
All right. I want to clear one thing up, though. You can use your mark as many times as you want.
Correct.
But you only get a certain number of times per long rest. What is that?
Strength mod per long rest. So normally 3,
Right.
sometimes 4 or 5 in the upper tiers.
So what does that mean? You get to use as many times as you want.
You can mark as many creatures as you like. Any of those marked creatures that attack someone other than you can make a number of strength. You can make those special attacks against those creatures that many times. So let's say your cleric is attacked 8 times in a fight. You can have the attacks be made. How do I better phrase this? You can mark things anytime you want, and marked creatures have disadvantage on attack against anything other than you. Right? You can only have one thing marked at a time, but it'll have disadvantage on attacking anyone that isn't you. That is a passive thing you can always do regardless of uses. There's no limit to that number of uses. If a marked creature attacks someone other than you, then you have a number of extra attacks equal to your strength modifier.
Oh, that's actually a lot better than I thought it was.
Yes. You don't have
Okay.
strength mod marks. You have infinite marks. Always
Okay.
can mark things. You can't
I
make
feel-
the extra attack unless you have you have your strength mod of them.
All right, that's fine.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a lot better than I thought it was. Still, I mean, I was thinking, okay, you get to use this, strength mod number of times per long rest, and that's not ideal. But then I thought, my own argument, how many times you're really going to get to use this? So it felt like kind of a wash. But whatever, it's better this way.
It is a lot better. I will definitely say this. It still isn't a super high impact ability. If you're playing at a table that is trying to be power gaming, that is trying to do big numbers, that is bringing cohesive modern builds to the table that have a bunch of multi-class nonsense going on or are super deep in one archetype, this is not going to be powerful. at lower power tables, at tables with new players, I would definitely recommend this to those kinds of fighters, because it is you always can use it whenever you want to. It's something new to do on your turns. You have a little bit of decision makes with it, especially when you get extra attack, and it has a decent impact. I think that makes all of it pretty reasonable.
I mean, whatever it is, I don't want to jump ahead, but we got better stuff coming.
Sure. Next up on 7th level is Warding Maneuver. So this lets you fend off strikes directed at you, your mount, or other creatures nearby. And the mount part is really just like a flavor thing at this point, because we've already kind of determined Unwavering Mark doesn't care if it's a mount or not. It's nice that it works with your mount, and it punishes people for hitting your mount. Both of those things are cute. This does make for a good mounted character, but by no means limited to it. So anyway, you can if a creature you can see within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack, you can roll a d8 as a reaction. If you're wielding a weapon or a shield, you roll the die, add the number to the target's AC. If it still hits, it has resistance to the damage. So this always will do something. It will always give them an AC bump, and even if it hits through that AC bump, they'll have resistance to the damage, and that's pretty baller. And you get a number of uses equal to your con mod, which does make this archetype pretty much linearly stuck to saying you're playing a strength con character with very little room for other like ability scores, because you really want a lot of uses of this. This is a feature more so even than the extra attacks, where you want 3, 4, 5 of these as the game progresses. You are majorly told take ability score improvements to make this as useful as possible. That being said, a bonus D8 to AC that also provides resistance to attack on anything nearby you, that's great. This is this goes directly alongside the ward as you are all going to attack me, and if you don't, you're going to be ineffective. This once again will draw fire directly to you and punish people who are attacking people other than you. It'll play great alongside those other characters exactly the same way Unwavering Mark did.
All right, for that reason, and I guess others, do you think it's worth prioritizing con over strength?
No, never.
No.
It
Because I'm
attack
thinking
rolls.
this, being able to do more, and you gotta get a few more hit points, which you're gonna need because you're trying to get everybody to attack you.
So it helps that this can defend you, right? So this doesn't just exclusively protect allies, which does make it so there's a no-win situation is even more so set up this way, where if they're directing your attacks against you, you probably want to be warding maneuver yourself. If they're attacking someone else, you can make sure like you're definitely not hitting. You're not only gonna have disadvantage because I marked you, you're also gonna be dealing with a higher AC target that can like super protect an ally, but it's probably gonna be better spent protecting yourself. In that instance, I still think I would much rather max my strength as fast as possible, so I'm getting +5 to hit on multiple hits per turn. That's what Fighter does, right? If you're making 3 attacks a turn, having each of them be +15 damage as opposed to +12 or +9 damage, that's a pretty giant leap. It also adds to your plus to hit. So like maxing your attack modifier whenever what you predominantly do is attack is very valuable. So I would still almost always recommend you max that first. You can, if you want to, kind of go hybrid. Go like, all right, I got an 18 strength. I'll bump my con to a 16 next, and then go max out strength, max out con after that. That's all fine and dandy. Another reason that I would say this pushes newer players toward this is this asks you to not take feats. This asks you to maximize your con for a benefit. And for that reason, if you're a player that feels daunted by the amount of content out there and you don't necessarily want to have to read all of the feats and try and figure out your own build and scour Reddit to try and find these awesome new things to do, this does give you a real payoff for not doing any of that. This gives you a real payoff for just saying, I'm making my strength 20, I'm making my con 20, I get new stuff to do out of it, I get extra little benefits from my subclass. I honestly think that's pretty fine. It's not powerful. It's not like the kind of game warping that or kind of game expanding power that Battlemaster really gets with their disarming maneuvers. There's not going to be as many moments of big splashy effects from warding maneuver, but it's a nice, clean, easy defensive feature that's going to help you. It's going to help your team. It's pretty good. It's a fine frontline bog standard tank build.
I think this is a good one. The reason I ask, I'm a lot more excited about this one than I am about Unwavering Mark. But
it's fine. It's only to one attack, but giving guaranteed resistance is great. You're always getting something like that. Yeah. I love whenever I always get something for my feature. Hold the line is what you get 10th level, so creatures provoke an attack opportunity from you when they move 5 feet or more within your reach. This is a really good feature. This Hold the Line is Polearm Master stapled to, or not Sentinel stapled to just this archetype. So if anything comes within range, you hit it. Anytime you're getting new reactions that are powerful attacks, they're great. And again, given that you don't want to be taking feats, this is a really easy direction to just say, oh no, now I have even more options in combat. I love that.
All right, slow down. Wait, all right, creatures provoke an attack of opportunity when they move 5 feet or more while within your reach. That doesn't mean they're running up and attacking you, right?
It can.
Are you sure about that? Because
I think so. I'd assume so.
I mean, if that's the case, then awesome. But I thought it was sort of the thing where they're already within your reach and they move somewhere else within your, like they're trying to work their way around you. Like,
that makes it substantially worse if that is the reading of it, and I would be very bummed out if that were the case. It may be the case. I may have reviewed it with like if that was the case. I don't truthfully remember it. My current interpretation is that moving within 5 feet of your reach includes engaging you. I could be wrong about that. If I am wrong about that, comments let me know.
5 feet or more while within your reach.
Sure. So you enter my reach.
So,
you're within my reach. You've moved. You might be right. Your interpretation may be valid. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Actually, you might be right too, because especially if you have, reach weapons, then they have to move into your reach, and then 5 feet more. Yeah.
That actually might. So that might be the intended actual play pattern, right? It might be that you're right. The creatures don't threaten creatures that if you were wielding like a longsword, for example, creatures don't provoke attack opportunity when they move within 5 feet of you because that's not within your reach until they're like next to you. But if you're using the things that Cavaliers are supposed to use that have reach, all of a sudden now it works. And this encourages using pole arms, it encourages using long reach weapons that Sentinels tend to use. So yeah, I could actually see that maybe that's the correct interpretation of it. Commenters down below, let us know the exact rulings of it. I'm sure that it is somewhere on some blog that has, or Twitter, Jeremy Crawford probably commented on it. In either case, if you're ever getting an opportunity to make attacks opportunity whenever things move into your reach, such as with pole arms, in this case, right? At minimum, I would definitely say with pole arm, things going from within 10 feet of you to 5 feet of you definitely would provoke the attack opportunity because it's within your reach. At that moment, it's exceptional. And that if that encourages you to play the pole arm build, it's great. And then you got a pole arm defensive guy where you got a shield and spear, you're poking things, maybe you got a lance that you're up on your horse, stabbing things with it. All that's pretty great. Free attacks opportunity, big win, huge boon for the option.
All right, if that's the case, then yeah, I'm feeling better about this one.
This definitely does then put you, I will say this puts this very solidly in the you should be using pole arms camp, which does majorly limit your fighting style options, I should mention real quick, because there aren't great pole arm fighting style options. But so, just take that into consideration whenever you're doing this. Duelist, I think, can work if you're holding a spear in one hand and a shield in the other. That can be fine, I assume. Yeah, that sounds right. Maybe not. I don't know. I have to read through the fighting styles again, but it definitely there aren't great pole arm fighting styles comparatively. So
Sam, I think there might be an argument here for defense.
I don't agree.
This guy really needs as high defense as he can get.
Yeah, but it's boring. I don't want to do that.
Yes.
You're probably right. This probably is an option that is, strictly speaking, better for taking defense. And again, on that new player argument, it is a really easy thing to just not have to worry about it anymore. But I want blind fighting. I want duelist. I want other cool, more fun, powerful options than that. Anyway, Ferocious Charger's next 15 level feature, you can run on your foes whether you're mounted or not. Which again, this really is just saying, hey, this is probably supposed to be mounted, but you can do it without. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line. Yeah, it is the Cavalier, and they're like, most Cavaliers ride horses, but I'm not going to tell you have to ride a horse. So if you move at least 10 feet in a straight line before attacking, and you hit with the attack, it makes a strength save or is knocked prone. You can use it once on each turn. This is I don't love it.
Well, let's see if I can add a little spice to it. Okay, I noticed this doesn't say it had to be a melee attack.
That's very true. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line right before attacking a creature and you hit with the attack. So, like, while that is spicy, we have to remember that we've definitely just previously determined you want to be using pole arms with this. So, like, if you're using...
If you want to... All right, here's the situation.
Sure.
You got a dragon of the sky.
That's a really good situation.
Shoot it, it plummets to the ground.
I mean, yeah, that definitely does... That single use case does make this a lot more interesting. It's definitely a reason to have a bow on you. This will help lead to the mounted archer fantasy that a lot of people probably want. Is it good? Because then you have disadvantage on attacking it because you're using a ranged weapon and it's pro. So that's like, somewhat counterproductive.
And it's completely stupid. I mean, this is not what they intended. There's no rationale for, this is going to work because I read 10 feet before doing it.
But like, so mechanically, rules is written. That's what it says. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line right before attacking a creature and you hit with the attack, nowhere in there does it say melee. It makes a strength save or falls prone. Yeah, sure. I think this as an engagement tool is fine. We've seen like the known quantity of pounds from all of druids, from all of rangers. We know that knocking something prone can be powerful. It can give a bunch of people advantage on attack rolls. It gives your mount advantage on attack rolls if you let it sort of like do its own thing. That's going to really... Doing the whole mounted combat thing is probably a separate video in and of itself, but in that instance, if you can have an amount that's doing its own turn, getting its trampling charge to do bonus, 2d4 with advantage is pretty good. And you've got like, your paladin allies that you're trying to keep alive, your barbarian friends, your monk friends, your rogue friends that are all in melee range that this whole option's been building towards. This sort of lets you engage it, knock something down, everyone piles on, and they have bad time attacking people that aren't you from prone. That's pretty cute. It's not something I see being used more than once a fight, maybe twice a fight at most, where you engage something, and it's done. You could do things where you disengage and come back in and stuff, but that's a lot to ask for the prone condition, whereas Battlemaster, you could just use a maneuver to get this, so it's a lot easier for that. Still,
what about like
prone is fine. I don't hate it.
What about like a skirmisher scenario where you just go around from enemy to enemy like whack-a-mole, hitting everybody prone, and that your friends can attack who they like.
So there's the main issue with that is that has negative synergy with Unwavering Mark, right? Because Unwavering Mark says while you're within 5 feet of the marked creature, it has disadvantage on any attack roll that doesn't target you. So that immediately is like, oh, this is an entire non-bow unless you hit something, leave its threat range, take the attack opportunity, hit something else, and mark it until your next turn. And then you're running between allies for this to have benefit, because this really wants you next to this entire option says stand next to your friends. And if you're not standing next to your friends, it doesn't do a whole lot, which makes the skirmisher archetype worse, because those don't they want to move all over the place. They don't necessarily want to be in any one given position. So I don't love that, but you could do it with Ferocious Charger. I think this is pretty clearly the worst of the features we've seen yet. But, again, knocking one thing prone, giving 4 attacks advantage is pretty solid. Getting it for free, yeah, all right, I don't hate that.
All right, well, on to the big capstone.
This is very important. We haven't skipped a feature up to this point. At every time this option was supposed to get a feature, it got a feature. Not just a passive crappy improvement, not just you get one extra use of something or you learn a new maneuver. No, you get a feature every time you get a subclass feature. And even if they're like, this one's not the best in the world, at least it's a whole feature. And I hate that that's the bar, but that's the bar. So anyway, Vigilant Defender closes us out. You respond to danger with extraordinary vigilance. In combat, you get a special reaction that you can take once on every creature's turn. Oh boy, except your own. So you can use the special reaction only to make attacks of opportunity, and you can't use it on the same turn you take a normal reaction. This means with Hold the Line, anything that if you got a 10-foot reach polearm, anything that moves within 5 feet of you stab it. It just sets you up to be you stand in the doorway against the million swarming goblins, and you just rub your hands together, and then with inhuman speed, you just stab all of them as they just wash towards you and fall in a wave. It's such a cool fantasy. In practice, it's still pretty good. It's not that spectacular. You're not fighting against a horde of goblins that you're instantly killing, but it will definitely take encounters where enemies are running at you, and you'll say, I'm holding the line, and he'll go, yeah, you're going to hold the line all right. You're going to say, this 10-foot range area, yeah, it's a death zone. No one's coming in here without getting stabbed. It's pretty spicy. I like it a lot.
I need a couple things explained to me.
Sure.
All right. You get a special reaction that you can take once on every creature's turn except your turn.
Correct. You have a reaction on every turn in combat.
So that's enemies and allies.
Correct.
So if you got your 5 friends against this one hill giant, every time your friend attacks, you also get to stab the hill giant.
No. So if the Hold the Line opportunity attack happens whenever a creature moves within your reach within 5 feet of you. So if they engage from out of your range, if they engage into your 10-foot range and then move to attack you, move into next to 5 feet of you, that's when you get your extra opportunity. That's all Hold the Line, right? Hold the Line is what's giving you the attack opportunity. If you can get that a reaction on your allies' turns by them shoving something while it's within 5 feet of you, that should work, where you'll get an attack opportunity on that player's turn as well. So you can.
Slow down. I'm talking about Vigilant Defender.
Yep. The special reaction.
What's that got to do with Hold the Line?
So Hold the Line is how you're getting those extra attacks opportunity. That's the real big juicy one. Normally, attacks of opportunity are made whenever a creature leaves your threat range. You can still do all that normally, but Hold the Line lets you also make attacks of opportunity whenever creatures enter your threat range. Threat range being your weapon reach, right? And it specifically enter your weapon reach within 5 feet of you. Move within 5 feet of you within your weapon reach. Ooh, this is a very specific option. Again.
You can use this special reaction only to make opportunity oh, okay, there it is.
Yes.
No.
So you don't get to make opportunity attacks just for free randomly on everyone's turn. You still have to meet the prerequisites, which notably, again, I'm not the professional rules connoisseur at the moment for this specific archetype, but it doesn't specify in Hold the Line that that movement has to be willing, unlike how it normally specifies the other attacks of opportunity, which means, in my interpretation, a forced movement should qualify, which does make some neat counterplay and neat options with your allies, assuming that's how that works. But even if that's not how it works, even if you still need them to willingly move, this basically, Vigilant Defender says, with Hold the Line, anything that is moving within 5 feet of me is getting stabbed. So I'm going to put myself somewhere where things are going to have to move within 5 feet of me to get to my backline friends, to get through this corridor, to do whatever, and you're going to stab each and every one of them. And that's pretty spicy. And then they can't move anymore, which is pretty also pretty spicy.
Okay, I'm
thoroughly confused.
Yeah, I'm still a little hazy on Vigilant Defender.
Sure.
We don't have to spend forever explaining this to me.
Every single creature in combat, you get one reaction per their turn. That reaction can only be used to make attacks of opportunity. You with me?
Yes.
Great. Your attacks of opportunity are provoked whenever something moves within 5 feet of you within your reach. So any creature's turn,
they don't move,
no attacks of opportunity for you.
Does no. Oh.
Correct.
Okay, that's not nearly as cool as I thought it was.
I want you to picture once again the scenario in your head where there's a corridor overrun with goblins climbing on the walls and everything like that, and you're just standing there stabbing them all. That's pretty sweet, right?
But how often is that happening?
And the upper tiers could happen more than the lower tiers, for what that's worth. And it also, this will basically say in the first round of combat, you get X number of free attacks, which is X is the number of creatures that engage you. And that's pretty great, right? This takes the fantasy of Hold the Line from you get to stab one thing around, and whenever 3 things engage you, it doesn't have more text than that, to everything that engages you is getting attacked at least once. And that is genuinely pretty solid. That's a genuinely pretty powerful feature in big melee fights, right? This is the kind of thing where you engage, get within 10 feet of them, stab them all. If they want to hit you back, they have to engage you. They have to move into your threat range. If they leave your threat range, you still get attack of opportunity of them, right? You still get to make those attacks, either they don't want to engage you. So you're putting yourself in a position with a pole arm with a 10-foot reach where you're going to be engaged with as many creatures as possible, and either they engage you and get stabbed, or they try and leave and get stabbed. And there's no winning there, and there are just a bunch of free attacks. And a bunch of free attacks are good.
Yeah. All right, I'm a little clearer. Man, I was with you right up to the end.
Listen, this, despite being a relatively streamlined option as far as not having a bunch of tons of resources, it is fairly complicated. I think it's pretty sweet. Again, this is an option I would highly recommend for new players that want new things to do, but don't want an overwhelming burden of having to read through a bunch of maneuvers, read through a bunch of spells, read through a bunch of, content. All the content's in one spot. It's fairly digestible. Once you play with it once, it's pretty apparent how it works. I'm a big fan. Is it overtly super powerful into the super late game? Not really. But in the super late game, it could be really great. It gives you really interesting positioning questions. It lets you play with fun reach weapons. It encourages things like Sentinel and Pull-Up Master to do some cool stuff. I'm a big fan. I'm a big advocate for Cavalier for, again, lower power groups. I don't think it's, until, again, that's super late game, which you're not doing a whole lot up until that point. I don't think it's particularly powerful.
All right, well, you got a rating?
All right, back to alphabetical. I did the last one correctly. I'm going to do this one correctly.
All right.
I think, honestly, this is a C. I don't think it deserves super high marks. It still suffers from all the problems that fighter has. You don't have a lot to do out of combat. This is all combat stuff. This is combat with a single skill proficiency, right? It'll let you play specific character types. It'll let you play the Cavalier pretty well. And for players that are looking to learn the game, learn the base mechanics, play until 5th, 6th, 7th level, all the features here are digestible. They tell you exactly what they do. I think it's fine. It isn't giving you a lot of particularly powerful stuff. It doesn't give you a lot of agency in when your damaging abilities trigger. It doesn't give you a lot of agency in deciding when you're getting extra attack rolls. There could be some frustrations where if Unwavering Mark is succeeding, it feels like it's not doing a lot. So all of that, I think, leans into it being not superb, not something that I personally would play myself. Still, it's a fine option, and it has a lot of cool things. Top End Fantasy is sweet, even if it's a little bit clunky with the Ferocious Charger and Vigilant Defender. Hold the Line is a sweet ability. I wish it had more stuff around it. I wish there was more options, more choices to make. But given that it doesn't have them, that does line it up to do something well, and that's appeal to new players.
All right, I'm gonna go a notch higher. I'm gonna give it a B minus. I think I think this might be my favorite of the fighter subclasses that we've covered so far. Not a lot of competition there.
Battlemaster's
So
pretty
far.
sweet.
Yeah, but I think I prefer this one.
That's fair. This one's a lot
All
less
right.
reading.
Okay, well, that was Cavalier.
That was
Thank
a
you,
messy
Sam, and yeah, it was. Which is weird because I felt almost competent talking about it. Right up until the end.
Sure, listen,
All right.
commenters, if you can clarify our rules questions, do that in the comments below.
Oh yeah, please. And let us know what else you think. What do you think about Cavalier? Thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe and the like buttons and all that, and go buy my books and tell all your friends. And I love you. All right, that's that, and goodbye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.